Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Task Force report was presented to the legislature in December. The report notes that while American Indian women and girls make up just 1% of Minnesota's population, they represent 8% of all murdered women and girls. This week, I spoke with Senator Mary Kunesh, co-chair of the task force, about the group's findings and recommendations.
This report is the first attempt to get at the root causes of the disproportionately high rates of violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. First, who are Two-Spirit people? And second, what are some of the causes?
So our Two-Spirit folks are members of our communities who do not identify exclusively as a man or a woman, but who basically embody a distinct, almost alternative third gender status that is non-binary and bi-gender. And it's important to know that historically in many tribes, Two-Spirit people filled some of the most respected, revered roles such as healers and shamans and ceremonial leaders. And then to respond to root causes, well, the root causes of the MMIW injustices are really based as far back as basic colonization and the historic trauma, racism and sexism, as well as sexual objectification. I always have a hard word with that. Objectification of our Indigenous women and girls, and the disruptions that are caused by the conquest and disease, along with missionary settlement, government agents, boarding schools, white settlers settling on lands that were identified as reservations. So those are the sort of things, along with confusing jurisdiction, that has really been at the root of the problem of the violence against our women and Two-Spirits.
Now, you mentioned jurisdictional confusion, and I want to talk about that because the report does point to that lack of understanding between tribal, county, and state agencies in terms of investigations and prosecutions. Many fall through the cracks. What is a solution to improve communication among those law enforcement entities?
Well, I'm really heartened by a lot of the recent state-led efforts to recognize and build those relationships with our 11 tribes, as well as the increasing and understanding about the MMIW injustices. And I'm really optimistic that these actions will contribute to a longer-term solution in Indian country, not just in Minnesota, but across the nation. So, for example, legislation I passed with bipartisan support where we modified tribal police to exercise concurrent state law enforcement jurisdiction authority. And that sets a huge precedence for tribal self-governing. And then more collaboration across the board with a lot of the programming that works with the violence against our Native communities is really on the uptick, and we're very grateful for that kind of open communication.
One of the recommendations is for sex trafficking awareness prevention efforts, particularly near casinos and where extractive industries in oil and mining occur. I recall a great deal of discussion about sex trafficking when the Super Bowl came to town, but this suggests that sex trafficking is an ongoing problem, perhaps particularly in these areas. Is that true?
It is. And people will always ask for that data and facts around that. And unfortunately, data has not always been and rarely has been collected. But anecdotally, and then in some studies, even the University of Minnesota did a study before the Super Bowl, recognizes that sex traffickers prey on the vulnerable and the voiceless. And that certainly describes the historical status of Native American women. But that report that I referred to that the University of Minnesota did in 2017 found that all different events feed sex trafficking: trade shows, holiday weekends, hunting, sporting events, and that generates an increase in sex trafficking. But the potential harm for man camps that are created by the extraction industry is really exacerbated when those locations and the projects are near Native communities, because there is data that shows an uptick in the communities where these extraction industries are with man caps, because it's ripe for the exploitation of the vulnerable community members, but especially our Native women and children.
There was one key finding that struck me as being very important, and I will quote it. Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people are not at increased risk of violence because of individual risky behavior or poor choices, but rather because of systemic risk factors like poverty, homelessness, child welfare involvement, domestic violence, sex trafficking, and prostitution place them in dangerous situations. Can you say more about this?
Sure. Well, you know, too often the victim is re-victimized by being blamed for being the victim, and that they let themselves be used and abused. But we know that those factors that you mentioned just a minute ago put most of our Indigenous women and girls at higher risk of violence and exploitation. They go missing at higher rates or are murdered. You know, in Minnesota, our American Indians are more likely than any other group to live in poverty. So not having a safe place to stay puts our Indigenous people at risk of exploitation and violence. The historic withholding of material and emotional needs for our Indigenous communities has also contributed. The child welfare system is also unfortunately contributed to the MMI injustices in a couple of ways. And, you know, first of all, it disrupts our Indigenous family structure and functioning, removes the children from their culture, their traditions, and that really does result in intergenerational trauma. And then secondly, the disproportionately removal of our Indigenous children from their families and placed in foster care, out-of-home care, puts them at an increased risk of abuse and exploitation. And so some of the federal laws and state laws really are important that we are implementing all of these with fidelity in order to ensure that our Native communities don't feel the historic distrust and are vulnerable to our predators that cause all this issue.
If the legislature acts, then a missing and murdered Indigenous women office would be created, and possibly there would be a dashboard annually to track progress. What would this new office be charged with doing?
Well, basically, this new office will support tribes and the issues that surround them. With that tribal consultation that has improved over the last couple of years, we'll be able to support different activities and protocols, such as holding the Minnesota Legislature and our state agencies accountable for implementing some of the mandates in this report. And then hopefully we would like to develop additional recommendations to address that MMIW injustice. It'll develop tools and processes to evaluate some of the implementations, technical assistance for local and tribal and law enforcement and agencies, so that we can share the data and share the information that comes across it. And then kind of do annual reports on things that are changing, things that need to be changed. It's just really important that we are you know, working together on this issue, because if we can combat sex trafficking or this violence against women in Indian country, then we absolutely can expand that to the general community as well as other vulnerable groups of people.
Senator Mary Kunesh, I want to thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.